It does not matter how healthy your diet is. If you are not getting enough joy from the foods you're eating, you won't be able to stick to it.
If any food can fit into a healthy diet, why does Nutrivore need a score?
Oh, this is a fascinating question. So, the Nutrivore score is a measurement of nutrient density. So, it is basically a mathematical calculation that gives us total nutrients per calorie. And it's a very robust way to measure this because 33 different nutrients go into the calculation. A lot of other nutrient profiling methods that are out there use 9 or 15 most commonly. Some use only 6. So 33 nutrients going into the score gives us a really good, like big picture idea of what is the nutrient density of this food, right? What is the total nutrition that I'm going to get for the energy contribution that this food is going to give me? So it is a great way to understand the relative proportion of foods that give me a lot of nutrition per calorie, right? More nutrients for each bite versus foods that are not going to contribute as much nutritionally to my diet, but that still might supply something really important. So there's three things we get from food. We get energy, right? So calories, carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So that is the energy that goes into all of the chemical reactions that are our life, that are us. We get nutrients. So those are building blocks. So all of the different things that make us us, the chemical reagents that go into those chemical reactions that need energy to make them happen, to make something really important that makes us us. So nutrients, really important. And then the third is experience, joy, taste, flavor, texture, right? And that is still exceptionally important. It does not matter how healthy your diet is. If you are not getting enough joy from the foods you're eating, you won't be able to stick to it. And so Nutrivore is the goal of getting all of the nutrients our bodies need from the foods we eat. But the ultimate thing here is achieving sustainable nutrition. So higher diet quality, a health promoting long-term eating pattern that is sustainable, that is something that I can just do for the rest of my life. And that requires intentionally making room for quality of life foods. Now, I prioritize foods that maybe don't have a lot of nutrients, but that are just tasty, right? Those foods that hit every button. They're comforting, they're delicious, they're just the tasty joy. But there's other ways to prioritize quality of life foods. You might prioritize foods that help stretch your budget or foods that are cultural, traditional foods, although lots of cultural and traditional foods are also really nutrient dense foods. So don't think that I'm saying cultural and traditional foods are, just your quality of life foods. You might prioritize convenience foods, right? The thing that's really easy to grab when you've slept in and you need to run out of the house, and that's your breakfast. Or the meal that's really easy to put on the table for dinner on a night where you got home really late because, I don't know, the kids have soccer practice or whatever it is, right? So there's other ways that foods can improve our quality of life by not just being tasty, but by being nostalgic, by being culturally important, by being celebratory foods, but also by being foods that are just easy, right? That extend my budget, that extend my energy. So I didn't have to use the energy to prepare this food, so I can use that energy to do something else, or time. I didn't have to use time to prepare this food, so I can use that time for something else, right? There's other ways we get quality of life out of food, and they are all valid. And so the Nutrivore score can help us understand how much room we have for these foods in our diet. So if you use the Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix, which is another resource that I've created for expediting the process of meeting our nutritional needs from the foods we eat, it is not the only way to do so. It is just the most efficient. If you do that, depending on exactly what your energy requirements are, you can meet your nutritional needs. So hit the daily value of all 49 essential nutrients in 50 to 75% of your caloric intake, which leaves 25 to 50% for quality of life foods. Those really important foods that make sure we're getting enough joy, that we enjoy our diet enough that we can stick to it, right? The intentionally important foods that are improving my life, maybe not improving my nutrition, but improving my life. And so the Nutrivore score is one way to identify those foods. In fact, I would say it's a very important way to identify those foods because there's not yet a reliable alternative. So the NOVA classification system is used to measure the amount of processing a food goes through. So it divides all foods into four categories, like whole and minimally processed, processed culinary ingredients, processed foods, and then ultra processed foods. And there's this like misnomer that everything in that group four ultra processed foods are like empty calories, right? Like it's all Twizzlers and Doritos. But there's very nutritionally valuable foods that are technically in that ultra processed category because of the amount of processing that they go through, like frozen dinners, like canned soup, like instant oatmeal or fruit on the bottom yogurt. And so the Nutrivore score gives us another way to sort those foods. So we can say, look, within this ultra processed food category, here's this whole group of foods that have tons of nutrition, really valuable nutrient contributions to my overall diet, and don't therefore need to be consumed in moderation. And then here's this group of foods that are have undergone a lot of processing. They don't have much in the way of nutrients. They do deliver usually calories and often joy. And so now I can understand how much of these foods to eat so that my diet overall is still high quality, but that I have intentionally made room for these foods that are going to make sure that I love eating what I eat. So the Nutrivore score both helps us understand the most nutritionally valuable foods. Not that we only want to use the Nutrivore score as the only way we're choosing foods. We also want to combine that information with other really important information about food. Like we also want to understand not just the nutrient density, but what types of nutrients are in this food. So understanding what food family it belongs to will give us that information. How much of that food family do I need to eat in order to meet the full range of nutrients that my body needs and balance with other food families, right? That information is still really important for our food choice. But the Nutrivore score helps us identify those nutritionally valuable foods, along with this other information that tells us what nutrients are in the food, and still helps us identify the foods that are best consumed in moderation, right? The foods that we still want to make room for, but that we don't want to be like the dominant foundational food of our diet, if we're aiming for long-term health improvements, right? So it's a great tool for like both categories of foods, in addition to redeeming foods that someone else might be telling you are bad, right? They're ultra processed, NOVA classification 4, but now you can see the quantification, the result of just crunching numbers. Here's the math, that this food is nutritionally valuable and can help you feel good about more accessible and affordable foods forming the basis of your diet. So I think it's a fantastic tool, because it really helps to show how every food is contributing nutritionally to my diet so I can understand the relative proportions of those foods to eat.